It's the Balkans, a wild, rugged corner of southeastern Europe where history runs deep. Legends are still what say, have you ever heard of a bird so rare? Scientists still argue whether it even exists. Welcome Toppered and the bird life? Let's just say it's not your average backyard flock. This isn't Paris. This isn't Venice. This is where eagles circle medieval ruins, tiny masked assassins perch in olive groves, and birds nest in cliffs so steep you wonder how anything survives up there at all. In this video, we're taking you on a journey through 15 mysterious bird species found nowhere else on Earth. Each one rare, strange, or simply spectacular. And trust me, if you think Europe's bird life is all pigeons and seagulls, you're in for a surprise. You'll meet a pelican with a wingspan wider than your car, a bird that scales vertical rock like it's got climbing gear, and a warbler that only sings in the shade of ancient olive trees. But here's the question: which of these birds vanished from the wild, only to reappear decades later like something out of a Balkan ghost story? Stick around to the end, because number 15 might just give you chills. Let's dive in. Number 1 is massive. I'm talking flying dinosaur energy. Meet the Dalmatian Pelican, one of the largest flying birds on the planet. And when I say large, I mean a wingspan of almost 10 feet. That's wider than a smart car, or your Uncle Steve doing a cartwheel at a barbecue. This gentle giant can be found gliding silently over the lakes of the Balkans, especially in places like Lake Skadar, where misty mornings and mirror-flat waters set the stage for what honestly feels like a nature documentary narrated by Morgan Freeman. Now here's the twist. Despite being huge and hard to miss, the Dalmatian pelican was almost lost to history. By the late 20th century, their numbers had crashed across Europe, thanks to shrinking wetlands, poaching, and let's be honest, people being people. But guess what? Thanks to conservation efforts in places like Montenegro, Albania, and North Macedonia, these feathered giants are making a quiet comeback. They're the underdog redemption story of the bird world, just with more feathers and dramatically better hair. Speaking of hair, fun fact, Dalmatian pelicans have this shaggy white crest on their heads that makes them look like they just walked out of a 70s glam rock band reunion. They're the only pelicans with that wild bedhead look, stylish and endangered, a rare combo. And when it comes to fishing, they don't dive bomb like other birds. Nope. They cruise low and scoop fish right off the surface using their giant, stretchy bills. Basically, nature's version of a soup ladle. So here's one for the comments. If you had wings that wide, where would you fly first? Peaceful and scenic, like Lake Skadar, or straight chaos, like downtown Manhattan? Let me know. And stay tuned, because up next is a bird that doesn't fly up cliffs. It walks them. All right, picture this. You're hiking in the Balkans. You look up at a towering vertical cliff, sheer rock, no ledges, no trees. And suddenly something flutters across the wall like a butterfly with a jetpack. That was a wall creeper. And yes, it walks on walls. This little acrobat is about the size of a sparrow, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in drama. Its wings flash crimson red and deep black as it hops, climbs, and flutters across bare stone like it's auditioning for a Marvel movie. Wall creepers love vertical limestone cliffs, especially in mountainous regions of the Balkans like Kosovo, Albania, and North Macedonia. They're the kind of birds you only see if you're looking up and know what you're looking for. Spoiler, most people don't. They don't build nests in trees. Nope, they tuck them into rocky cracks and crevices like tiny architects of the impossible. It's like they said, "Oh, you live in a birdhouse? Cute. I live in a crack 300 feet off the ground." Now here's a fun fact. Wall creepers aren't related to creepers or wall climbers like woodpeckers or nuthatches. In fact, they're a species all their own. No cousins, no close relatives, just them. They're like the mysterious loner at a high school dance, but with wings and way better coordination. Their fluttery dancing flight is so unique that birders often describe it as half bird, half butterfly. Not a bad compliment, honestly. So here's your question of the day. Would you rather have wings that can fly or feet that let you climb walls like Spider-Man? Be honest. Comments are open. Coming up next, we meet a bird that looks like a mountain chicken. But trust me, it's way cooler than that sounds. You ever see a bird and think, wait, is that a chicken hiking a mountain? Meet the rock partridge, aka the alpine chicken with attitude. Now, it may not win any airspeed records, it's not much of a flyer, but this bird is built like a tank for the hills. Found in the rugged uplands of Albania, Greece, Serbia, and parts of Bulgaria, the rock partridge is a master of mountain camouflage. With its gray-brown back and striped flanks, it blends in perfectly with rocks, scrub, and dry grass. Spotting one in the wild feels like unlocking a hidden level in nature's video game. But don't be fooled by the meh coloring. These birds have serious survival game. They live in steep, rocky areas where predators can't chase them easily. And when danger comes close, they don't fly away. They run fast, like Olympic sprinter on gravel, fast. And here's a wild twist. During mating season, the male lets out a call that sounds kind of like a wind-up toy running out of battery. It's not exactly majestic, but hey, whatever works. Fun fact, the rock partridge is so tied to the Balkans that it's featured in regional folklore and even traditional recipes. Yes, recipes. Back in the day, this bird was considered a delicacy. Now, it's a protected species in many areas due to population decline. So today we watch them, not cook them. They also mate for life and form strong family bonds. So if birds could wear matching hiking boots and hold hands, these two probably would. And here's a cool behavioral quirk. Instead of nesting in trees or cliffs, rock partridges make shallow nests on the ground, usually hidden under a bush or a rock outcrop. Super basic, super effective, minimalist parenting at its finest. So tell me this in the comments. If you had to survive in the mountains with zero flying ability, would you rather be fast like the rock partridge or super camouflaged like a chameleon? Up next, we're trading feathers for talons and meeting a Balkan raptor with royal blood. If there were a royal family of birds, this next one would definitely be wearing a crown, probably made of bones. Say hello to the Eastern Imperial Eagle. Yes, Imperial, because nothing says, "Don't mess with me," like naming yourself after an empire. This majestic raptor once ruled the skies across Europe and Asia. But today its kingdom is shrinking. And one of its last strongholds? You guessed it, the Balkans. You'll find these eagles soaring above Bulgaria, Serbia, and parts of northern Macedonia, especially in open grasslands and old-growth forests, where they can keep watch like a feathered monarch surveying its realm. Let's talk looks. They've got dark chocolate brown feathers, piercing yellow eyes, and a crown of golden plumage at the nape of their neck. Basically, they look like a war general, and a supermodel had a baby with talons. But here's the plot twist. Despite looking like apex predators, Eastern Imperial eagles have had it rough. Habitat loss, illegal hunting, poison bait. It's like the bird version of a political thriller. At one point, fewer than 10 breeding pairs were known to exist in all of Bulgaria. Thanks to ongoing conservation efforts, they're slowly clawing their way back. And honestly, if any bird deserves a comeback tour, it's this one. Fun fact, these eagles don't just hunt, they wait. They perch for hours, totally still, until the perfect moment to strike. It's the bird equivalent of a sniper with wings. And yes, they mate for life. Because even imperial types believe in loyalty. Here's a question to spark the comments. If you had eagle vision, could spot a rabbit from a mile away, what's the first thing you'd use it for? Finding lost keys? Locating your car in a crowded parking lot? Spying on your neighbor's backyard BBQ? Drop your best answer below. Next up, we're going from regal to ridiculous. Get ready to meet a Balkan bird with the color palette of a highlighter pack, and the dance moves to match. All right, buckle up, because this next bird looks like it flew straight out of an 80s Miami art gallery. Meet the European roller, the only member of the roller family found in Europe, and arguably the most fashion-forward bird in the Balkans. Picture this, bright turquoise body, sky blue wings, orange-brown back, and black-tipped feathers that flash like neon when it's flying. It's like someone handed a box of highlighters to Mother Nature and said, "Go off, but don't let the tropical color scheme fool you." This bird means business, especially when it comes to showing off. Every spring, the male roller pulls off an aerial display that's part dance battle, part roller coaster ride. He flips, dives, twists, and twirls midair to impress potential mates, hence the name roller. It's like Top Gun, but with feathers and a better soundtrack. You can spot rollers in the open woodlands, farmlands, and savanna-like areas of the southern Balkans, especially in Bulgaria, North Macedonia, and Greece. They love open spaces where they can strut their stuff and still keep an eye out for insects, lizards, and the occasional unlucky frog. Here's a fun fact. Despite being ridiculously photogenic, European rollers are surprisingly aggressive. When threatened, they puff up, hiss, and even vomit. A defense move that says, "Don't mess with fabulous." And here's the twist. These birds aren't permanent Balkan residents. They're long-distance migrants, flying over 6,000 miles to sub-Saharan Africa for the winter. Basically, they summer in Europe and winter in the tropics. Must be nice. But despite their beauty, they've been disappearing. Loss of nesting sites, pesticides, and climate shifts have caused their numbers to drop fast. They're now listed as near threatened on the IUCN Red List. So next time you see a flash of blue tearing through the sky, it might just be the Balkan bird world's answer to a pop star on tour. Question time. If you had to win a mate with a dance move, what's your go-to? Cartwheel? Moonwalk? Interpretive bird flapping? Tell us in the comments. Coming up next, a quiet, dusty little bird with a gloomy name and surprisingly mysterious habits. From one of the flashiest birds in the Balkans to one that looks like it just walked out of a black and white movie. This is the somber tit, a tiny, soft-spoken songbird with a name that sounds like it's been through a breakup and just wants to be left alone. But don't be fooled by the moody vibes. This bird is full of surprises. Found in the dry woodlands and scrublands of the southern Balkans, especially in Greece, North Macedonia, and southern Serbia, the somber tit is a master of the quiet life. It prefers solitude, avoids crowds, and sings a slow, low-pitched tune that honestly sounds like a bird whispering poetry at midnight. It's like the emo teenager of the bird world. Introverted, understated, possibly keeps a journal. Its appearance, sleek gray body, dark cap, pale cheeks. Nothing flashy, nothing extra, just minimalist chic. Now here's something cool. Unlike some of its hyperactive cousins in the tit family, the somber tit is calm, methodical, and even a little mysterious. It moves slowly through the branches, pauses often, and seems to think before it hops, which, let's be honest, is rare in birds. Fun fact, these little guys nest in natural tree cavities or even old woodpecker holes. They don't build elaborate nests or decorate them with shiny things like magpies. They just find a cozy spot, line it with moss and fur, and call it home. Efficient, respectable, very Scandinavian in a way. Now here's a twist. While this species is fairly stable in some parts of its range, its habitat is shrinking due to deforestation and agricultural expansion, which is a shame because the world could use more calm, thoughtful birds. So here's your comment prompt. Are you more of a European roller, loud, colorful, center of attention, or a somber tit, quiet, deep thinker, selectively social? There's no wrong answer. Unless you say seagull, then we might need to have a talk. Coming up next, a tiny underwater expert with emerald eyes and James Bond level stealth. Now let's shift gears from moody songbirds to sleek underwater assassins. Introducing the pygmy cormorant, a compact, stealthy diver with the attitude of a spy and the eyeliner of a runway model. Found skulking around the wetlands, rivers, and lakes of the Balkans, especially Lake Skadar, Lake Prespa, and the Danube Delta. This bird is the smallest cormorant species in Europe, but don't let the size fool you. What it lacks in height, it makes up for in pure aquatic ninja energy. With glossy dark feathers, a short hooked bill, and glowing emerald green eyes. The pygmy cormorant is basically the James Bond of the bird world. One moment it's perched motionless like a shadow on a branch. The next, it's gone, diving silently beneath the surface, chasing fish with zero splash and maximum precision. Fun fact, unlike ducks and swans, cormorants don't have waterproof feathers, which means after a dive, they have to spread their wings and dry off, usually in a Dracula-like pose on a rock or tree limb. It's dramatic, it's iconic, and depending on the light, a little terrifying. These birds travel and nest in colonies, but they're not loud or rowdy. They're the quiet neighbors who always seem busy, never make a fuss, and mysteriously disappear for hours. Probably off doing something way cooler than we are. Here's the twist. Pygmy cormorants were once in steep decline across Europe due to wetland destruction and pollution. But today, thanks to protected areas in the Balkans and smarter water management, their numbers are on the rise again. Spy comeback complete. So here's something for the comments. If you could have one bird superpower, would you rather be able to dive underwater like a cormorant or fly like an eagle? Tough choice, right? Up next, we're staying in the rocks, but switching from stealth to strategy, because the next bird builds like a mason and hides like a ninja. If birds had tool belts, this little guy would be wearing one. Say hello to the western rock nuthatch, a small but seriously resourceful bird that's part mason, part minimalist, and all Balkan. This clever creature makes its home in the rocky, dry, scrubby landscapes of Albania, Greece, North Macedonia, and parts of Montenegro. While other birds are out there building stick nests like amateurs, the rock nuthatch is busy doing construction work. And we mean that literally, using mud, grass, feathers, and whatever else it can find. The nuthatch builds a solid dome-shaped nest, glued with actual mud, usually on a cliff face, wall, or cave ceiling. It's basically the bird version of a hobbit house, cozy, custom, built to code. And here's the part that deserves a DIY channel on YouTube. Once the nest is done, the bird plasters shut the entrance, leaving just a small hole big enough for it to squeeze through. Security system installed, draft control handled, interior design, earth tones obviously. They also cache food in crevices and cracks in the rocks, little secret pantries full of insects and seeds for hard times. So yeah, it's got a smart home before it was cool. Visually, the rock nuthatch isn't flashy. Soft gray back, white underside, and a neat little black eye stripe that gives it a constant look of determination, or suspicion, or both. They're fast, agile, and incredibly territorial. For something that fits in your palm, they've got big homeowner energy. Fun fact, unlike many birds, rock nuthatches don't migrate. They stay year-round, defending their rocky real estate through snow, sun, and surprise owl visits. It's commitment, it's personal, so here's your comment prompt. If you had to build your own home using only mud, twigs, and spit, how long would you last? Be honest. And no calling your cousin who's kind of into carpentry. Next up, we're heading into the ancient forests, where silence rules. And one mysterious bird drills into trees like it's hunting for buried treasure. Time to meet the power tool of the forest, the black woodpecker, a bird so intense, it sounds like someone's out there chopping wood with a hammer drill. Native to the deep, old-growth forests of Bosnia, Serbia, Slovenia, and Bulgaria, this jet black bird is the largest woodpecker in Europe, and possibly the most dramatic. Picture this, a nearly crow-sized bird with all black feathers, bright white eyes, and a flaming red crest on its head. It doesn't just look metal, it sounds metal too. When it drums on a tree, the whole forest hears it. It's like Morse code from the underworld. And here's the thing, those hammering sounds aren't just for show. The black woodpecker uses its chisel-like beak to carve massive holes into tree trunks, sometimes so deep and wide they resemble medieval architecture. Honestly, you could Airbnb one of these things. But it's not doing this to make modern art. It's hunting for food, especially carpenter ants and beetle larvae, buried deep inside the wood. And when it's not dining in, it's crafting cozy tree cavity homes for nesting. Bonus, after they move out, those tree holes become prime real estate for owls, squirrels, and even bats. So yes, this bird is also a real estate developer. Fun fact, despite being pretty reclusive, the black woodpecker is actually monogamous. They pair up, split home duties, and raise their chicks in pitch-black tree apartments. Co-parenting goals, honestly. Now here's your twist. Even though they're pretty widespread, you almost never see them. They prefer dense, quiet forests and avoid people like introverts at a house party. If you spot one in the wild, you're lucky, or very quiet, or both. And get this, they can hammer over 20 times per second. That's faster than most drummers. So here's one for the comments. If you could peck through solid wood with your face, what would you do with that power? Build a tree house? Open coconuts? Destroy IKEA furniture out of spite? Drop your answers below. And coming up next, a tiny bird that prefers the company of olive trees and writes love songs in whispers. Let's take a break from all that tree drilling chaos and zoom in on something a little more poetic. Meet the olive tree warbler, a soft-spoken, sun-drenched songbird that's so low-key, even birdwatchers sometimes walk right past it. But make no mistake, this little feathered introvert is a Balkan original. Found mostly in Greece, Albania, and scattered parts of North Macedonia, the olive tree warbler is almost always spotted in, you guessed it, olive groves. Specifically, old, gnarled, sun-cracked trees that look like they've been around since Aristotle was a teenager. Now, this bird isn't flashy. It's kind of beige, kind of gray. If birds were fonts, this one would be Times New Roman. Classic, unassuming, surprisingly powerful. What makes it stand out? The voice. This warbler sings in a raspy, almost scratchy voice that's oddly soothing, like an old jazz record playing from the back of a vineyard. It's not trying to win the Voice Bird edition. It's just out here vibing. Its song is long, slow, and delivered with that same Mediterranean chill you get after a long lunch and a nap under a fig tree. Fun fact, unlike most warblers that flit around like they have had too much espresso, this one is deliberate. It moves slowly through the branches, pausing between hops like it's pondering the meaning of life. Warbler, more like philosopher. And here's the twist. This species is migratory, but incredibly picky. It breeds only in the Balkans and winters in East Africa, specifically in acacia bushlands. So basically, it's summers in olives and winters in safaris. Not a bad lifestyle. Unfortunately, as traditional olive groves get replaced with modern agriculture or disappear entirely, the olive tree warbler's breeding grounds are shrinking. So yes, it's peaceful, but it's also vulnerable. Comment time. If you could spend your summer in an ancient olive grove, what book, song, or snack are you bringing with you? Meditation optional, but encouraged. Coming up next, a warbler with a fiery chest, a long-distance flight plan, and a serious case of, you've never heard of me, but I'm awesome. Tiny bird, big personality, even bigger travel schedule. Meet the Subpine warbler, a sleek little songbird with a flame orange chest and a surprising taste for adventure. This bird might only weigh about as much as a tablespoon of sugar, but don't let that fool you. It's a long-distance migrant. We're talking flights from the Balkans to sub-Saharan Africa every single year. No passport, no snacks, no business class. You'll find them nesting in the shrubby hillsides and rocky slopes of Greece, Albania, and parts of Montenegro, usually somewhere dry, sun-soaked, and filled with low vegetation. They love spots where humans rarely go, which is fair because when you're this small, everything looks like a potential predator. The males are easy to recognize, well, if you can spot one. They've got slate gray heads, rusty orange throats, and a bright white ring around the eye that makes them look like they just saw their credit card bill. Females, on the other hand, go for a more low-key, sandy brown look. Now here's the cool part. When breeding season hits, the male Subpine warbler becomes a little opera singer, delivering fast, scratchy trills from the tops of bushes like he's trying to out-sing every bird in the county. And it works, because apparently the louder and faster you sing, the more attractive you are, at least in warbler world. Fun fact, this species was recently split into several different ones, depending on where in the Mediterranean they breed. The Balkan population? It's a distinct group, meaning yes, you're looking at an exclusive regional edition. But here's the twist. Despite their wide range, they're still vulnerable to changes in habitat. Fires, overgrazing, and development are slowly eating into the scrubland they call home. And that's bad news for birds that can't just hit reroute on Google Maps. So let's bring it to the comments. If you had to migrate thousands of miles every year, where would your summer and winter homes be? Be bold. Be specific. Bonus points for snacks. Next up, a little predator in disguise, with a mask on its face and a murder mystery in its habits. Every good mystery needs a masked character, and in the Balkan bird world, this is it. Say hello to the masked shrike, a small, elegant bird with a black facial stripe that looks like it's either planning a heist or trying to keep a very low profile. Either way, this little guy earns the title of masked assassin, and we're only kind of joking. You'll find masked shrikes perched on low branches or fence posts across southern Albania, Greece, and parts of North Macedonia, usually in dry, open woodland or farmland with scattered trees. And at first glance, they seem harmless. White chest, orange flanks, black and white wings, clean, tidy, polite, like a bird that pays its taxes early. But then you notice something. It's impaled a beetle on a thorn. Yep, that's a thing. Masked shrikes are part of a family of birds known for their macabre habit of impaling prey, insects, lizards, sometimes even small mammals, on thorns or barbed wire. Why? To store food, or sometimes just to let it sit for a while and get tender. So basically, it's a songbird that skewers things. Nature's tiniest kebab chef. But don't let the metal vibes scare you. These birds are highly skilled hunters, using patience and precision to ambush prey. They'll sit motionless for minutes, scanning the ground like a tiny hawk with better style. Fun fact, despite their slightly spooky eating habits, masked shrikes are surprisingly social during breeding season. Pairs will duet softly to each other while building their nests, usually tucked deep in shrubs or small trees. Love and murder, very Shakespearean. Here's the twist. Because they rely on open landscapes with just the right amount of shrubs and trees, masked shrikes are vulnerable to land use changes. Too much farming, too much clearing, and poof, no more perfect hunting ground. So let's take it to the comments. If you had to pick one bird super move, would you rather sing duets with your partner or skewer your lunch like a tiny medieval knight? Choose wisely. Coming up next, we leave the land behind and follow a bird that rides the sea breeze, disappears into mist, and speaks an ancient name few can pronounce. Now we take flight, far out over the water. No trees, no cliffs, just waves, wind, and one very mysterious bird riding the currents like it owns the sea. This is the Yelkovan shearwater. Yeah, try saying that 5 times fast. Its name comes from Old Turkish Yelkovan, meaning wind chaser. And honestly, that's exactly what it does. This sleek, dark-winged seabird skims just inches above the water, using wind patterns like a pro surfer. It barely flaps its wings, just glides effortlessly, like it's floating on invisible rails over the Adriatic. You'll find it off the coasts of Albania, Croatia, and sometimes in the narrow straits between islands, especially at dawn or dusk when the light hits just right and the ocean looks like glass. And here's the kicker. It spends nearly its entire life at sea, feeding, resting, even sleeping on the open water. Only coming ashore to breed, usually in dark hidden caves on remote islands. Romantic? Definitely. Easy to film? Not at all. Fun fact, Yelkovan shearwaters are silent at sea, but become extremely vocal at night in their breeding colonies, letting out eerie, wailing cries that have inspired legends and ghost stories along the Balkan coast. Fishermen used to say the voices were lost souls calling from the cliffs. Creepy? Yes. Amazing? Also yes. Here's the twist. They're now considered vulnerable due to pollution, overfishing, light pollution, and invasive predators at nesting sites. Even stray cats introduced to islands have devastated entire colonies. So while this bird is a master of the open sea, it's struggling to keep its secret home safe. Let's turn it to you. Would you rather live on land with all the comforts, or at sea gliding over waves with total freedom, but nowhere to plug in your phone? Comment below and stay with us, because next we're meeting a bird with bold-fashioned sense, a mysterious past, and a song that sounds like sunshine. If you've ever wondered what sunshine would look like in bird form, this might be your answer. Meet the Sorl Bunting, a bright, cheerful little bird that's basically the summer vibes ambassador of the Balkans. Found in the Mediterranean zones of southern Albania, coastal Croatia, and parts of Greece, the Sorl Bunting loves warm, open areas with scattered trees, grassy slopes, and just enough human presence to feel interesting, but not annoying. Basically, it likes a chill countryside with good views and no Wi-Fi. Visually, stunning. The males sport a yellow chest, bold black eye stripes, and a streaky olive-brown back that looks like someone crossbred a goldfinch with a camo jacket. It's like a bird that couldn't decide between blending in or showing off, so it did both. And while the Sorl Bunting isn't the rarest bird on this list, it is one of the most easily overlooked, especially by people who assume every yellow songbird is just a canary, which is kind of like calling every sports car just a Toyota. Now here's the fun part. This bird sings constantly during the warmer months. A short musical trill that's easy to miss, but oddly addictive once you hear it. Some birders say it sounds like a tiny zipper being pulled. Others say it's the musical equivalent of a wink. Either way, it's charming. Here's a twist. Sorl Buntings have actually benefited from small-scale farming. Old-school traditional farmland, with hedgerows, wildflower strips, and rotating crops, is perfect for them. But when large-scale agriculture moves in and the land gets flattened and sterilized, they vanish. So yeah, this fashionable little singer is also a symbol of balance between people and nature. Let's hear it from you. If you could have your own personal theme song, what would it sound like? Something cheerful and simple, like the Sorl Bunting, or full-on orchestral drama? Tell us in the comments. And now, we end this journey with a bird that sees in the dark, hunts in silence, and might just be the ghost of the Balkan forest. And now, we arrive at number 15, the final bird, the one that watches when everything else sleeps. This is the Eurasian Eagle Owl, a creature so large, so silent, and so haunting, it's no wonder locals in the Balkans once believed it was a forest spirit, or worse, an omen. With a wingspan up to 6 feet, bright orange-red eyes, and 2 feathered horns that look like it's permanently judging you, this owl is the undisputed king of the night. It haunts the deep forests, rocky canyons, and remote ruins across Serbia, Bosnia, Montenegro, and Bulgaria, often nesting on cliffs or in caves. Not that you'd see it, because it sees you first. This owl flies in complete silence, thanks to specially adapted feathers that muffle the sound of its wings. It can swoop down on a rabbit, rat, or snake, and all you'll hear is a heartbeat. Or maybe not even that. Fun fact, the Eurasian Eagle Owl is one of the largest owls in the world, but unlike most of its relatives, it's surprisingly territorial and has even been seen chasing away foxes. Yes, foxes, feathered Batman energy. And here's the real twist. For decades, this owl was believed to be extinct in certain parts of the Balkans, wiped out by hunting, habitat loss, and old superstitions. But slowly, quietly, they've returned. Thanks to protected areas and a shift in public perception, the eagle owl is making a comeback. You just have to know where to look, or when to listen. Some call it a ghost, others a guardian. But one thing's for sure, when you're deep in the Balkan woods and you feel like you're being watched, you probably are. Let's finish with one last question. If you could become an owl for one night, where would you go and what would you want to see? A mountain peak at midnight? A forgotten castle? Your neighbor's backyard just to confirm they are stealing your Wi-Fi? Drop your answers in the comments. And there you have it, 15 of the rarest, strangest, and most mysterious bird species from the Balkan wilds. Thanks for flying with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because this journey into Earth's hidden corners, we're just getting started. And that wraps up our Balkan birdwatching adventure. 15 mysterious species, some stunning, some spooky, all unforgettable. If this made you want to grab binoculars or just Google tiny bird with murder vibes, you're not alone. Hit like, tap subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next wild journey. And tell us in the comments, which bird would you want to see in the wild, and which one absolutely haunts your dreams now? Thanks for flying with us. See you in the next video.